Hey everyone, this is Donnie with Dota Alchemy, and thank you for tuning in again. This is a piece of content that used to be behind a paywall on DotaAlchemy.com, but is now available for free here on YouTube, so I hope you enjoy it. I also wanted to just remind you that there's still a couple days left to enter our Phantom Assassin Arcana giveaway. We're giving one away on Twitter, and we're giving one away on our brand new Patreon account, which is being used to help support the Dota Alchemy project here on YouTube. And all you have to do is go to our Twitter account, follow us, and reply to the pinned tweet with the hashtag PAIsNotOP. And then you go to our Patreon page, and you can enter there as well by replying to the top post with the comment PAIsNotOP. We'll be drawing the winners on Wednesday, and thank you for watching. Enjoy the video.
Hello friends, Jenkins Dota here, bringing you another Dota 2 video on behalf of DotaAlchemy.com, and this video is going to be on 3 bad excuses that Dota players make that they don't realize that they're making. Excuse number 1. After somebody dies, people will commonly say, "I was baiting, where was my team?" or something along those lines. This is almost always a poor excuse for being out of position, because intentionally baiting in Dota is almost always a bad play. At first glance, that may sound a little bit absurd, which I completely understand, by the way, because when I first learned this concept with my Dota 2 team, it sounded absurd to me as well. The idea that baiting isn't good seemed so absolute, and I swore that I had seen teams baiting time and time again in competitive to secure some great team fights. But the issue with this excuse is an underlying misunderstanding of what baiting actually is and why it occurs in a competitive game. Most of the time, the problem isn't that baiting occurs. The problem is when somebody baits with the intention of baiting, because real baiting occurs naturally as a result of playing the game correctly. So you should never have to intentionally bait if you're playing the game right. For example, let's say you're defending a tower. Your team has not yet gotten into position to defend, but you have killed the creeps and the enemy team can't hit the tower as a result. So what do you do next? You run up and kill the next wave and then maybe bait a good fight or something like that if they go on you? No, because if the enemy team is there still, then you'll probably just die instantly, and then your team will have to take a 4v5 even if it baits a fight. It's potentially good. So what do? Do you sit in the tower? Sure, that's pretty safe, but you can actually take it a few steps further. Perhaps you could hide in trees, or even cut yourself deep into trees and face yourself towards a specific angle that you can force staff out or blink out if the enemies dive you. There's probably more that you can pile onto that to make yourself safe in this situation, but we'll stop here simply because that's already enough defensive posturing to make this either a really good bait or a free tower defense where the enemy team just backs off and they can't get you. If the enemies dive you, you are an extremely hard kill, and in the time that it takes them to get to you, you will likely have safely escaped and your team can TP in and take an even better fight than if you were to bait in the first place on the second wave. But instead of you being dead, you'll be alive, and the enemy team will be way in over their heads. That would be an amazing bait. If they don't dive you, then you've essentially just solo defended an objective and you've already done your job with little to no cost. So you're happy about that as well. Essentially, if you just focus on playing the game really well and keeping yourself alive, good baits will naturally occur. Or you'll do jobs around the map with little to no cost. So why risk baiting when you can accomplish the exact same thing in a much safer way? Excuse number 2. I can't play Dota well because my reaction times are slow. The problem with this excuse is that, similar to the first excuse, it displays an underlying misunderstanding of why extremely good players have fast reaction times in the first place. People aren't born with naturally fast reaction times in Dota. And sure, some people are naturally predisposed to being better at having good reaction times in Dota, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not something that you can train yourself to get better at. You might be thinking, Jenkins, are you just going to tell me that I need to play a lot more and build muscle memory? Well, yeah, sure, that's certainly something that's necessary for building your reaction times, but you can and should take that a step further. Consider the following example. Here we have a game in TI-8. Tavo TPs into the base as Nature's Prophet to snipe the courier. No one knew Tavo TP'd in because he was in vision, and that he had the TP on cooldown, and the only way for him to get out is he runs through vision, which means that he can just zip and get Tavo, or he uses trees and then he teleports out using a teleport scroll. So all no one had to do was sit in fountain and wait, and then zip and quick cast his stun in the trees, or pre-cast on the hero if he runs through the tower. It looked like at the time to the casters and spectators that no one was just on top of Tavo in a heartbeat, instantly stunning and annihilating him at the earliest possible moment. But this actually didn't have anything to do with reaction time or mechanical speed in the general sense. This was a learned and premeditated behavior from no one, based on his understanding of tower vision, the hero, nature's prophet, and how that hero works mechanically if he's trying to snipe couriers, quick cast, and his job in the game as Storm Spirit. That is, no one's reaction time is fast in this game as a result of his understanding of his job in the game and all of the mechanics surrounding it. This extends far beyond this example. For instance, an amazing instant hex might actually just be the result of somebody using quick cast extremely well, or by using a precasting trick on a specific hero and vision. In most situations where it looks like somebody has inhuman reaction time, it's usually a far more complicated behavior in terms of how they learned it, and it's usually based on a lot of practice, game knowledge, and understanding of the game. At a certain point, things become impulsive and your reaction times will feel quicker, which technically speaking is the truth. But the difference is, it's not natural or innate at all. The problem, really, is that people just chalk up good players to being naturally good and being mechanically strong. So people don't really realize that they actually have a very flawed view of the game. Instead, they think of their view as being extremely excellent, but they just don't have the reaction time or mechanical skill to back it up. But that's bullshit. This reaction time and mechanical skill in general is something that will naturally get better if you begin to analyze and understand the game and all of its mechanics. Excuse number 3. I died pushing lane creeps, but everybody on Reddit says that jungling sucks, so that was a good death. AKA the good death mentality. And sure, that's true to some extent, but not exactly. The issue with this excuse that you're having good deaths is that just because you're performing something based on a good concept or idea doesn't mean that you're doing it in the best way possible. Moreover, it's that focusing hard on one principle might actually be blinding you from others that are equally or more important. People commonly use understanding principles as an excuse for ignoring the fact that they're not actually implementing them correctly. As an example, imagine you're in a car at an intersection and you went straight through a green light. Nothing wrong with that, right? A green light means go. But what if there's a pedestrian walking across? Do you go through and hit them because the light was green? Well, of course not. That's a ridiculous question. And, intentionally so. Just because you're implementing a principle does not mean that you're doing it in the best possible way. Sometimes there are exceptions. Creep pushing is just one common example of this problem in Dota, but this of course extends to any principle. So for the creep pushing example, if you focus too hard on the fact that you need to push lane creeps, you may be ignoring a lot of other things that you did wrong in a scenario where you die pushing lane creeps. For example, if you push up too far and run into fog and kill a creep wave, you can actually put yourself out of vision. And by that I mean if you walk and try to kill a creep wave after you've killed a safe creep wave and you go for the next one, it's like, okay, I'm going to push more creeps, apply more pressure. That is good, but it's bad if there's no heroes showing on the map. Alternatively, if you kill a creep wave too slowly, then you're just sitting there, putting yourself at risk of being ganked. That is, yes, killing creep waves is certainly important, I'm not denying that, but that doesn't mean that you can't do it in a better way, or that it's not a concept that's losing you games. This is a concept in particular that I have personally actually started focusing on recently, as of the past couple of weeks. Killing creep waves as quickly as possible and safely so that I reveal myself for the least amount of time. And what I started noticing was the enemy team was actually revealing themselves if I was doing that 3 to 4 seconds after I disappeared into the trees. They would sit there, wait for me to kill the creep wave slowly so they can set up on me. I would kill it quickly. They'd kill their creep wave slowly because they get bored and they want to farm, and then I would kill them. It blew my mind that as a result of me killing creep waves faster, not only did I make myself harder to gank, which was the intention of making that change, but in turn, I made myself a better ganker. So what I'm essentially saying is that there's a domino effect. If you understand one principle, it can lead to a bunch of other good things happening that you didn't even think of in the game, which is obviously incredibly game-winning. And if you're using a principle that you want to employ in a game as a crutch for not understanding others, then you may be totally oblivious to a huge list of improvements, like I was, that can come from assessing a situation that you thought was an okay death or mistake based on another principle that might be faulty. So that's it for this video, guys. I do genuinely believe if you eliminate these excuses from your repertoire and you genuinely look at your replays and pro replays and try to figure out why people are doing different things and apply that to your games, you will learn a lot faster, because these excuses are the things that are going to prevent you from doing that. It's almost useless to look at a replay if you're making these excuses. So I do genuinely think that you'll get better if you eliminate them, just like I did. So anyway, thank you for watching. I do appreciate it, and I hope to see you guys in another video.